Hello, how is it going, everybody? Rezzy Orange here, y'all's favorite music-loving yarn-spinning cat boy, back with another edition of the weekly Orange Cat Music Chat. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the stream. I hope you are doing well today. It is Sunday, March 29th, and it's actually I wouldn't say it's a lovely weather day, but it's certainly it's been a really weird time recently for like New York City weather, I swear, because one day it'll be like, you know, like low 30, not low 30s, like high 30s, low 40s. Other days it'll be like sunny and like 60 degrees out. I just wish spring would make up its freaking mind already, you know? Like, just grace upon us the grace upon us some nice weather for one. Nice, consistent weather, I should say. Yeah, I today's been pretty busy for me though. You know, I was out earlier today doing like some volunteering at this community art event that was going on. It was nice. I got to silk screen print for the first time, and it was very interesting experience, I gotta say. I did that. I just actually just an hour ago I wrapped an interview with this one podcaster, the Sister Wives on the Sister Wives podcast, I think. And he should be having that out, I think, on his Patreon at some point soon. So I mean, I don't know if you're a Sister Wives if any of my audience is Sister Wives subscribers, but if you aren't, then do consider giving him a like. Apparently he giving him a follow, I should say. Apparently he does like similar sorts of deep dives that I like to do, except into like reality TV more so. So might be your speed if you're into that sort of content. But that was all well and good and a lot of fun, honestly. You know, I don't often it's not often that I get to be the interviewee, you know, so it was a nice change of pace. You know, but other than that, you know, if you didn't join my GTA stream yesterday, I thought that went pretty decently for itself. You know, as for my first time playing a GTA RP, you know, or let alone GTA 5 on PC, it went pretty decently. At least I tried to roll with the punches as much as I could. You know, played into my own controlling my own driving incompetence, my own lack of understanding of the controls. I played that off as my character being a goof, and I think it was charming enough, you know, to to I don't know. I think I connected well with a bunch of other VTubers there, and it was nice. It was nice. But all that being said, you know, I think we can move on to our guest of the evening today. I think he's somebody who I don't quite, I forget when exactly, but at some point in the past few months, he followed me, and he's got a really interesting aesthetic about him. You know, the cool thing about, you know, VTubing, if you typically see a VTuber that, you know, really embraces the whole musician aspect of things, odds are they're also, you know, super passionate about music themselves or make music, and you know, this guy is no exception. He's a guitarist. He does like guitar karaoke streams every now and then. He's super into metal, rap, punk, metal, rock, punk. Though he does like, you know, rap and other genres. He dabbles in, you know, draws influence from, which, you know, hey, big same. He is, you know, interestingly enough, he speed runs like Sonic Adventure 2. Like I could have sworn I caught him promoting like a speed run attempt the other day on Blue Sky, in fact. And he also plays a lot of Clone Heroes, so I'm quite interested to bond with him over that. It's not often I get a guest who's, you know, who also likes 5-fret rhythm games like that. So I'm excited for our conversation this evening. So, without further ado, would you please join me in welcoming Emery Matsushita to the program? Hello, Emery. Welcome.
Hey, what's up?
Hope you're doing well today. Thank you so much for joining me. Usually, the way I like to start these programs is like opening the floor to my guest. And in so doing, I like to have them talk about where they started off. Because, it's one thing to sort of embrace music casually in your life as like mood music, background music, what have you. Another thing entirely to be like a skate punk themed VTuber that, plays guitar for your fans. So, like, where did that start?
Well, if we want to go like all the way back to the very beginning,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. What got you
it started
passionate
in the
about
womb.
music, rather?
Right. So yeah, I've liked music pretty much as long as I can remember, basically. I know my mom has told me like when she was pregnant with me, even she would like put headphones on her stomach and play Guns
Oh
N'
yeah.
Roses music. So like it's just always been a part of my life. My like uncles and cousins have been music people, so rock music was just always a part of my life. As far as like getting into like more specifically the genres that I quote unquote main currently.
Sure, sure.
That also started fairly young in my childhood. Got a lot of influence from like licensed soundtracks and video games, like the
Oh,
Tony Hawk's
okay,
Pro
yeah.
Skater games, of course.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah,
uh,
so just been listening to music for a long time.
yeah, yeah. No, I can respect it. I honestly I was never into those like Tony Hawk games myself. I always found the skateboarding a bit too hard to control, but I do appreciate
Right.
that the soundtracks for that for a few other games really like Crazy Taxi 2, having like the
Mhm.
Offspring in it. Like there was a lot of great things brought to kids' attention thanks to the integration of like CD technology and like that you could have like CD quality music in video games, starting with like the Dreamcast, the GameCube,
Yeah.
the PlayStation, all those consoles. Like there was so much potential there, like to expose generations of kids to to great music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and I guess more along the lines of like what you were saying there. How like how did you how have you sort of wandered away from those comfort zones? Like I think you mentioned you like a bit of like rap, EDM sort of stuff like that.
Yeah. So I've kind of just always, kept an ear open for, different kinds of music. And even though like
Sure.
largely stick around the bubble of like rock, punk, and metal, like those genres themselves are like adjacent to so many others just because
Oh
like
yeah.
there's rock musicians that take influence from like electronic stuff. There's like a surprising, on the surface, surprising amount of crossover between like metal and rap as
Exactly.
well.
I
So
always
those
find
genres
it
have always been like crossing over in various ways.
exactly. I always find it so ridiculous whenever the conversation comes up where it's like, "Oh, rap doesn't belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame," where it's like, "No, it totally does." Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you can make an argument about the vague concept of like but like the two genres literally like have crossbred with each other since hip hop got some sort of like mainstream attention or was crystallized into a genre. Like you're not gonna be able to avoid like the influence of rap music on rock. The further we get away from like the original like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees.
Right. And like, in the first place, there's a question of like, if you're going to be, a rock purist, right? Like,
Hmm.
where do you draw the line exactly? When, you have rock songs with rapped vocals looking at like Rage Against the Machine and such.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, so at what point does it stop being rock music then? And like, there's, people call genres things for reasons, right? But it's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot harder to define once you start looking at all the the ways that people take different influence from all these different places. It isn't really all that clear, like solid line in between them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I I know there are people out there, or at least some boomer musicians or whatever, who saw like new metal as the death knell of rock music, and maybe at the time it
Oh
could
yeah.
have been, but like you look back on a lot of that stuff nowadays, and it's really interesting the sort of fusions they were trying to pull off. But like,
Yeah.
I just it's so ridiculous how people try to frame it like, rap ruins rock or whatever. Like, fucking, I don't know if you're familiar with Wasp that much, but like their former guitarist, Chris Holmes, he apparently moved to France like, I don't know how many years ago because, he thought that, black people were ruining metal in America. And I'm just like, dude, France has like a sizable black population too, right?
This
uh, man, crazy stuff. But like, so how has that multifaceted taste? Like, obviously you're deep in the rock, metal, punk, but like also drawing from other
Mhm.
influence. Um, how's that shaped how you approach music?
um it really has like there's like a lot of little things that you notice in different genres of music when you play an instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And like you listen to this stuff and it's like, if I'm listening to a dance song or whatever, there might be a thought in my head of like, okay, if I was to, play a guitar cover of this, like how would I handle this synth melody that normally wouldn't, be played on guitar or something like that. It's
Right.
like, do you translate it over to the genre, of your choice exactly as is, or do you like just try and modify it to fit or common in like rock music or something like that? And that sort of thinking can be found pretty much in any genre that you listen to. Like thinking about rap music and stuff like that, a large amount of rap and hip hop, even not thinking about like vocals, is in the beat.
Mm-hmm.
And so the drum patterns that are present in hip hop music can influence the way that you might want to do, certain parts of a song that you're writing or something like that. And there's all these different, it's exposure,
Mm-hmm.
really. Like the more things that you allow yourself to be exposed to, basically lets you think about the things that you primarily work on in different ways.
Yeah. No, totally. I feel like that's totally like thinking with an arranger's mindset, constantly trying to think how you can like translate, one aspect of a different genre into another. I've wanted for the longest time to like cover in a band like Radiohead's The National Anthem. Like that song fucking rips.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar too much with Radiohead, but like that song is really interesting in that it's driven by this heavy fuzz bass line, and driving drum rhythm to go with it. Um, and everything on top is this weird like sequence of like synths and synth patterns and what have you, and it makes me wonder like how would you try like if you were playing that with a normal band and you didn't have like a whole array of analog synths or whatever, like would you have like your guitarist going on like pulling up like a bottle slide or whatever to like really get like those dips and peaks and like some of the melodies, or like would he just be doing like crazy technical shit? Like it's fascinating. It's a fascinating rabbit hole to go down when you're thinking exactly of how to like bring electronic music into a more analog context.
Yeah, and like adding to that too, like guitar as an instrument like doesn't have to be always played the same way either. Like,
Hmm.
the bottle slide and stuff is, one, way that people kind of modify the typical way that guitar's played, but like,
Right.
there's also just a wide array of pedals and effects out there that you can use to change the fundamental sound of the guitar. You don't even have to play the guitar conventionally at all. If I remember right, the guitarist for Limp Bizkit doesn't, do the normal, hand positions and
Oh
such.
yeah,
So it's
Wes
just,
Borland was great.
you can do all these different things. Yeah. And like even a lot of guitar techniques that are kind of taken for granted in like rock and heavy music now is like, that's a lot of stuff that was popularized by Van Halen like 5 decades ago, I
Oh
think at
yeah.
this point. And it's like, guitar was just not played the same way before and after that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually did a lot of talking about that sort of influence in my recent, 3-part series on the history of glam metal because
Hmm.
it is staggering like just how many imitators emerged in his wake, in the 80s, even I guess to a degree
Oh
in the
yeah.
90s, but like, you know, he he set the bar for guitar wunderkind players in the years and decades to come, and not to diminish from his influence, but at a certain point it does make you appreciate the more unorthodox, the more out there and experimental guitarists as well. Like one that I always like to go back to is Adrian Belew. He played for like Frank Zappa, David Bowie, King Crimson, and his style was always very like a lot of effects pedals, and also manipulating the guitar in such weird ways to produce the most unnatural like sounds, and like also natural sounds. Like he imitated like seagulls and elephants and other sorts of like you know wild noises that you could never even really imagine like ringing out of a guitar before that point. Like I remember, I think the first time I really connected with with like an unorthodox solo like that was watching this performance he did of like David Bowie's Station back in like 1978. Wild stuff, man.
Yeah, yeah, and like it always just keeps growing and developing over time too, because it's like there's that back then, and then Tom Morello in Rage Against the Machine
Oh
like
yeah,
viewing himself as like the DJ of the group, even though his instrument is the guitar.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
its own whole discussion that could be had, and
yeah.
like moving on to even after that, Dragon Force putting like video game sound effects
Yeah,
replicated on
yeah.
guitar into their songs.
Oh my gosh.
It's like there's always people trying to push that envelope.
Totally, totally. So, uh, how do you discover new artists? Do you still listen to like streaming services and get stuff served to you algorithmically, or do you tend to like be more organic with how you discover stuff, like through friends, family, community members, etc.?
Oh yeah, it's kind of a combination of all of the
Mm-hmm.
above. I'm in like a little bit of a weird spot with music discovery right now, because like rather than specifically going trying to find like new bands and stuff like that, I'm kind of in this phase of trying to catch up on stuff that I missed.
Oh yeah.
Because like for example, emo as a genre I didn't really discover much until like maybe 10ish years ago, even though it was
Yeah,
at its
yeah.
peak in like the mid 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And so like there's all these bands that I didn't listen to back then, and I'm just like now starting to really find what I like about them, and that I do like them in
Yeah.
fact is one part of it. Like it's stuff that I probably would have written off a long time ago, but like now I'm like in that space where it's like, okay, all this stuff that came out 20 years ago like actually sounds interesting to me now.
No,
And so
honestly, yeah. I
like yeah, I'm
really.
still
So go
yeah.
ahead. Sorry, we're gonna what? You
No,
gonna
I'm
finish?
still like discovering music from people recommending me stuff. Um, but like that's other than that, I'm mostly just catching up on stuff. Listen to a whole ton of Spotify.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, like, I was gonna say, like, I do I connect hard to finally like understanding and clicking with some of the music of emo. Like, not to say I didn't
Mm,
find it like rocking before, but like nowadays, like, and granted, we're gonna get into probably talking about rhythm games a bit later, but like I played on Yarg recently, like a bunch of tracks
yeah, I
from
saw you on Yarg the other day.
on I played a bunch of tracks from My Chemical Romance's, I think, like Sweet Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge, and that shit
Mhm.
slaps. Honestly, like
Yeah.
musically, it is incredibly solid.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about it the other day. Like, my introduction to My Chemical Romance was with the Black Parade,
Oh yeah.
and that album I did not like when it released.
Hmm.
Just one of those things where, like, over time, like you spend some time away from it, and then when like your brain and your tastes are like more attuned to like that particular thing that they're going for in that album, you listen
Hmm.
to it again, it's like this was always really good, I just wasn't there at the time, like
Right.
mentally.
Yeah. No, I was a freaking kid back then. Like what did I freaking know about like emos and like feeling not okay and all that stuff? Uh,
Yeah,
uh, but
it's like I
yeah.
was
Sorry, go
I'm the
ahead.
kind of person that I'm the kind of person that doesn't listen to lyrics a whole lot on the first listen of a song. I
Right.
more go for like the music and the rhythm and all that. And so a lot of the songs in emo as a genre, like when I was still like developing my taste in music, just didn't really appeal to me because a lot of it was kind of abrasive in one way or another. If you think of like The Used, for
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
um, and just not understanding what the lyrics are talking about because I'm not listening to it all that closely. I'm not making the connections between like metaphor and all that, and so like a lot of that stuff just completely went right past me when it was really coming into fruition.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. I I don't know. I didn't really connect with any like genres of music until I got into like the Rock Band Guitar Hero games, and even then, like I think my favorite rock music for the longest time was like boomer stuff, old prog rock, old classic rock, that sort of stuff.
Right.
I didn't really open my mind up towards more alternative experimental rocks until I discovered Radiohead. So
Right. So with question for you.
yeah, of
Uh
course.
with your interest in the older type of music, was that something that like came from your parents playing stuff, or just like stuff you picked up
Uh,
out in the wild,
Yeah,
so
I
to
mean,
speak?
partly that too. I mean, my parents were into a lot of, rock music from back in the day. My mom was heavy into like new wave and like goth rock. She super into The
Oh.
Cure. While my dad, he was more of like a great. Well, they were both deadheads at a certain point, but my dad, he was like he followed the Dead, but he was also super into like the sort of folksy projects that they had, into like Jefferson Airplane, Yorma Kalkinen, that sort of stuff. But he
Hmm.
also had a lot of respect for like metal and punk and that sort of stuff too. So like, he had like scores of like Primus CDs. There's like this entire like CD. I remember digging through like his CD case like ages ago, and like that you had the Primus, you had Melvins, you had a bunch of cool like '90s alt rock. I had Butthole Surfers. He had some Butthole Surfers CDs too.
Oh
Very
yeah.
very eclectic. Like sort of as underground and alt taste as you could get in like the 90s. And I guess that all sort of melded into me, but really it was rhythm games that kicked the door wide open for that.
Yeah. Yeah, just, having a whole bunch of different types of music all in one place does a lot for you.
Oh yeah. Welcome, Lorenzo. I don't know if I understand your message at all, but I hope you are doing well. Let me turn now, I guess, to talking about your own musical output. From what I can tell, having done some preliminary research before the stream, you've yet to release any music yourself on streaming. Have you ever, been in bands or done recordings in a past life in any capacity?
Yeah, I can't get too
Of
specific
course, of
about
course.
it.
No, yeah.
But yeah,
Feel free
I
to
haven't released
self-censor.
anything as a VTuber. Yeah, I haven't released anything as a VTuber, but before VTubing, actually, I had a YouTube channel where I was making arrangements of video game music,
Oh,
actually, in a
awesome.
heavy metal style.
Mm. Oh, cool,
Yeah,
cool.
nothing popular. Of course, like nobody would have heard it. I'm pretty sure. But like that was, kind of what I cut my teeth doing. Started working on that in college,
Oh,
and
awesome.
I stuck with it for a good few years until I, decided to pick up streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And like unfortunately, since I started streaming, I haven't really had the time to continue with music because working and streaming ends up taking most of the day. So.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, at least you get some musical catharsis in your streams time to time. But like, I guess that's all to say. Do you have like ideas or plans to eventually, make your own original music as a VTuber?
Yeah, and so the unfortunate thing is that just a couple weeks ago, actually, my PC died unexpectedly, and I had
Oh
to get a new
no.
one. And in the process of that, I lost a bunch of files,
Oof.
some of which included song covers that I was planning on finally freaking doing.
Oh my god, that's
So
tragic.
I had plans to release some stuff. Yeah, absolutely tragic. Yeah, I had plans to release some stuff. If I still want to, but now it's gonna, be starting from scratch on it. But
Yeah, no,
hopefully,
that's totally
now
crushing.
that
I can
I've
understand if
got some
that
time
like
freed up.
I understand if that saps your motivation.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I do want to get back to it though.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, just got to get back on the wagon. I mean, unfortunately, I'm not much of a doll worker myself. So the limited covers I have managed to do are just like essentially slapping a vocal track or a drum track on top of like a pre-existing karaoke thing. But like, I do respect the hell out
Mhm.
of people who are meticulous with their work and so like, you mentioned video game arrangements in the form of metal guitar, like. I could never do like
Mhm.
something like what a fucking Little V Mills or a Gay Metal could do, where they're just like shredding.
Yeah, I just end up having my stuff be mostly riff based.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm a very, I'm a very riff-based thinker myself. I'm primarily a rhythm guy, right? So like, I don't know. When it comes to like melody and harmony, and I went I went to college for music. You think I'd have a more solid understanding of theory, but when you don't really practice it for a while, a lot of it sort of falls out of you. And me being a drummer, like I have a very basic understanding of tonality to get me by when I'm writing something, and usually that results in riffs, because at least with riffs you can make them ostinatos, and ostinatos I understand. uh
Yeah, a drummer's relationship to melody in the first place is just very different. The what your primary instrument is absolutely has an effect on the way that you like perceive and think about music.
mm-hmm. And like I love being a rhythm guy. Like I wouldn't trade being a drummer for the
Yeah.
world. But I would like to eventually develop some more grounded understanding. Like if I had the spare time, I would love to, seriously commit to learning guitar. I've tried like 3 different times, but I
Mhm.
always got more distracted by other commitments and like already playing the drums.
Yeah.
uh but that I guess that's to ask. It, oh wait, no, I guess we can hold that for a bit later. But I guess circling back to oh wait, sorry, I'm getting jumbled up in my questions here. Um, I guess like yeah, I guess we can start talking. Like, how long have you been playing the guitar for?
Um, Overall time, I think it's been about 20 years, is when I first got a guitar.
Okay.
My parents got me one for my birthday, and because they knew that I liked Guitar Hero and I was starting to kind of
Yeah.
mess around. We had like an old, like extremely out of tune acoustic guitar sitting around that I think my
Mm-hmm.
cousin had left in the house
Oh
at one
yeah.
point. And so like when I was kind of tired of always playing the same stuff in Guitar Hero 2, I would just kind of mess around on that. I didn't make anything that sounded particularly good, but I was at least, starting to figure it out a little bit. And so yeah, my parents got me a guitar, got me lessons at a place nearby, which unfortunately since has since closed down. But
uh,
yeah, I got like official guitar instruction.
okay.
Yeah. Um, yeah.
So you are like trained to an extent. Like, are how what's
To an
the ratio?
extent.
I guess what's the ratio on your self-taught like ability towards like what you learned?
Right. I'd say that like all the foundational stuff is definitely, from instruction.
Right.
Stuff like, reading, music, and, basics of, fretting and all that. But like
Mm-hmm.
very quickly I became more interested in like learning to play songs rather than variations on Baba Black Sheep.
Yeah.
Uh So I think I only ended up taking lessons for like a couple years, but
Right.
probably at least half of that time was spent on like learning songs and such. And at
Right.
some point I was like, okay, I'm now at the point where I feel comfortable on the guitar and I'm gonna just, go do my own thing now. So I got some like tab books of there was a Guitar Hero tab book actually that
Oh,
I
nice.
got. I was learning from that for a bit, and then just like kind of starting to work on writing my own stuff uh,
Yeah, yeah.
sometime after that. So I don't know exactly what like ratio I'd say
Yeah,
for
but
like lessons versus self-taught. It's definitely I think more so self-taught than anything else, but a
okay.
lot of the fundamentals were from
Yeah.
lessons.
It was like lessons that got you started. I kind of had,
Yeah.
well, how to say, it's kind of a reverse process for me because I basically jumped right from like rock band drums to IRL drums because well I think
Hmm.
my aunt her boyfriend had like a spare drum kit that he had to get rid of, and so for like Christmas, like like about like 15 years ago at this point, like I got like a fucking drum
Hmm.
kit, and for like the first however it might have been 1-2 years or so, like I was like basically teaching myself by like playing along to stuff on my iPod, and that was all well and good, but then I got some instruction like rock and then in jazz, and during which I really learned how to better control my feet, really incorporate the hi-hat click into there, but also like just more fundamentally learn
Hmm.
like rudiments like paradiddles and all that stuff, to sharpen my wrist control. Like that was what really made the difference and unlocked more like of my ability as a drummer.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm willing to bet, like, just playing along with stuff on your iPod or whatever, it's probably not all that easy to notice stuff like ghost notes on
Yeah.
drums.
Oh no, definitely not. Like I mean, I wouldn't say my wrist control was shit before I took jazz lessons, but at the same time, I didn't know like I was not the sort of person to be subtle whenever I hit a snare drum, you know?
Right.
But like, yeah, no, like I guess picking up jazz really I loosened me up and allowed me to be a more versatile sort of drummer than before. And nowadays I unfortunately I haven't had like any lessons since college, so I'm just sort of doing my own thing, but you know,
Mhm.
it's working well enough for me.
Right. Yeah. It's the kind of thing where, like, eventually you get it, basically.
Yeah,
And after
yeah.
that, you're just kind of like keeping your eyes and ears open for other techniques that you hadn't really considered
Oh
before.
yeah, like actually kind of related to that. It was only like a few years ago that I really actually zeroed in on the Bo Diddley beat. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's like a sort of shuffle thing where it's like you sort of trade off between your left and right hand, like hits between like the hi hat and like ghosted snare notes, and it's like it's a lot of fun once you
Mm.
finally nail that. But
Yeah.
which instruments or production techniques would you learn if you had the spare time?
Oh God. Everything? Does everything? Is that an answer?
I mean, you can
'Cause,
multiple choice it if you like.
right. So I've always, really wanted to be able to turn my space into like sort of a mini studio kind of thing.
Oh
Like even
yeah.
when I was in an apartment, it was like if I had just a few more square feet or whatever, I'd put an electronic drum kit in here
Oh
and then I could
god,
just play
yeah.
everything. Because like, I definitely had a lot of fun with drums when I was playing Rock Band as well. So
Yeah.
it's like, that's something that I at least understand the basics of how that works, even if I would definitely not actually be a good drummer.
Yeah.
Um, but like, I really do want to like dabble in, guitar. I've got, I've got four guitars and one bass
Oh
over
wow.
here. So I've done a little bit of bass. Yeah, I've done live bass on recordings. Um, but like I would love to be able to have, a drum kit and a keyboard so that I can just basically have all of the, core instrumentation of the genres that I like at
Yeah.
my fingertips and be
And
able
you
to
can
incorporate them.
be a bedroom musician like Kevin Parker and Mac DeMarco.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's I kind of have your opposite struggle right now, unfortunately. Well, not opposite, but like where it's like I used to be in larger apartment rooms where I could easily, you know, fit my electronic kit in there, and like if whenever I wanted to
Mhm.
do like a drum cover, I could just, you know, run my MIDI cable from there to my computer, and voila, I got like a working drum line. But unfortunately, nowadays I live in a room that's a bit too small to fit, you know, my computer in the same space as it. So it's downstairs, sadly.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately I'm kind of low on space right now too, so
Yeah.
that's stuff that once I, am able to get somewhere a bit bigger, then that'd be good to, just finally invest in getting all this other music equipment that I've wanted for years and, just
Yeah.
start going ham on it.
Struggles of living in a city, I swear to God. Uh,
Yeah.
so how do you go about developing ideas for like compositions or arrangements? Walk me through your workflow. What sort of softwares do you use, and how long have you been using them for?
All right, I've tried a few different DAWs. The one that I used the most for the last few years has been Cubase.
Okay.
Something I was introduced to me by a coworker that I had several years ago. He used Uh, here's a thing by Propellerhead Software. I don't remember what the name of the
Oh yeah.
program is, but the Reason is what he was using, and he also mentioned Cubase, and I tried them both. Reason just never really clicked with me, but Cubase did. So Cubase is
Hmm.
what I primarily use right now. And I don't, I don't make music often enough to go that far into like messing with different plugins and sounds and all that, so that
Right.
I mostly just stick to Cubase. As far as drums go, since I mentioned I don't have space for a drum kit here,
That's fair.
I have to program those, and I last used Hydrogen,
Hmm. Hmm.
uh and before that I believe I was using a program that was just called Drum Track,
Okay.
and that I basically just my process for actually writing stuff, I'll uh come up with stuff in my head, and I'll come home and start plucking around on guitar,
Hmm.
and just figure out what sort of riffs and sounds I want to be there. And then once I've got the structure of a song in my head, then it's drum program first to get all the rhythms and stuff sculpted out, and then just export that, load it into Cubase or whatever DAW I was using at the time,
Okay.
and just start recording stuff.
So I get, would you say you tend to you tend to like figuring things out on the fly more than like coming in with a notion of what you want, or?
Yeah, it kind of varies. Definitely, as time has gone on, I've been better at, starting with a concept
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like with specific riffs or sections in mind. Definitely early on, I was just like, when I was doing the video game arrangements, I was like, I'm gonna sit down today and figure out how I'm gonna arrange this song, and it kind of sounded like crap, because I feel like when you're going in there with just the idea of translating one thing to another genre, it's
Yeah.
kind of restrictive in what you feel like you're allowed to do with it,
Hmm.
um in sort of a subconscious way. It's not like you are actually you know restricted specifically. It's just like the way that you think about it is totally different when you're going about it that way. Whereas like if it's something that pops into my head during the day and I'm like, oh, I got something there, I if I'm out at work or something like that, it's like, oh, I gotta keep this idea in my head, play it over and over, and make
That's
sure that it stays with me until
that's
I
when the
get
voice
home.
memos come in clutch.
Exactly. That was something that took me like way too long to realize that I could do.
Yeah, yeah. No, same. I mean,
And
it's
yeah, once I started doing that, it was great.
yeah. Um, let's see. Uh, so how would you say that you've evolved as a musician over the years?
Uh, there's a cynical part of me that wants to say I haven't. But no, in truth, a lot of it's when I was, actually putting out music before my VTuber days. One thing that I was trying to make a point of doing, with new songs was like to try and use some sort of technique or idea or whatever that I hadn't done before.
Sure.
So like I said earlier that I could never shred, right? But there was still like a song where I tried to make a point of like introducing sweep picking to the equation,
Oh yeah.
uh, which is a technique that I personally find real hard to do. Everyone says it's basic and shit, but like I struggle with that. Um, so it's like just always, trying to come up with some new thing to do that I haven't done before.
Hmm.
And although I think that's like definitely slowed down a bit in since I'd started VTubing and haven't had time for making music as much.
Yeah.
Um like it's definitely still present. I don't like to write a song that I feel like I've done before,
Yeah.
basically. So if I'm, if I'm messing with ideas and stuff like that, if it sounds like something that I've already done, usually I won't exactly scrap it, but I'll like try to figure out like how can I do this differently in such
Right.
a way that, now it feels like something distinct.
Yeah, no, totally.
And so like technique wise, yeah, technique wise, I feel like I'm not really all that, more evolved from where I was a few years ago, but in the process of like you mentioned that I have guitar streams sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
In the process of doing that and learning songs for that, like there's always like these little things that I hadn't, really tried before that end up being part of that.
Yeah.
And like, so now it's just like these little things, these little differences, and either like, maybe this song plays a pattern that I'm used to, but in like a faster tempo that I'm used to. And so working on, getting the pick accuracy up for that riff is, what makes a difference. Sometimes it's like this Jane's Addiction song, uses octaves, but incorporates bends into it in a weird way
Right.
that I hadn't really done before on my own. And
Mhm.
so, like, right now, I'm mostly just like learning things from other songs that I like and
Mhm.
noticing how they use all these different techniques that when
Yeah.
I was just writing stuff didn't really occur to me.
Totally.
Stuff like layered guitars and stuff like that is things that I'm learning.
Yeah. Now your whole bit about like wanting to challenge yourself with everything you write, I always respect that mentality when musicians have that, they never quite want to repeat the same thing twice because, while there are definitely audiences for that, I could never spend like years in a band doing the same thing over and over and over. Shout out to AC/DC for releasing the same damn album since Back in Black.
Yep. My go-to for that is Breaking Benjamin. They have sounded almost exactly the same since their first album, but like he's fucking good at it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it and all that. But at the same time,
Right.
like I'm not gonna be looking to AC/DC when I want like titillating, artistic, forward thinking.
Yeah.
I go to
You're gonna be looking to
AC/DC
King
when I
Gizzard.
want. Oh yeah, yeah. I go to AC/DC when I want my prime bass urges sated.
Right.
uh,
Feeling specifically like 4/4 today. Let's put on some AC/DC.
hell yeah. um. So, are there are there any particular challenges that you'd like to set for yourself on your next project?
Finish it. For one thing. It just kind of always feels like, something leads me away from
Right.
being able to actually conclude a project. But I think one of the big things that I want to do is put out an original song,
Mm-hmm.
as a VTuber that,
Right.
fits the theme of my VTuber and all that. And it's, trying to work out how exactly to do that has been very interesting because, as I said, the stuff that I'd worked on before was metal, but as a VTuber, I lean more into the skate punk theme and aesthetic.
Right.
And, there's some similarities between those genres, but like the way that the songs are written is just very different.
Yeah. I mean, you could actually get
And
some.
so,
You could absolutely like make some rippin' J rock that'd fit perfectly with your avatar. I'm sure.
totally. Oh yeah, definitely. You could see like a visual K kind of angle.
Maybe, yeah. um. Oh, I guess. Have you gone to very many concerts, rock or punk, metal, otherwise? Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of the interesting thing is that I haven't actually gone to a ton of concerts in my time.
Ah, okay.
I've definitely gone to a few, so it's not like, I've just always
Right.
stayed home or whatever.
Yeah.
But I kind of just like the album format of music, and so going to concerts isn't as much of a, priority for me. But over
Sure.
time, I've definitely, uh, gone to a fair number of shows. It's definitely decreased a lot since the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because starting then, it's like during that whole time, it's like everyone's staying home, and so am I. And so since that time, it's like I don't want to go to concerts alone, but also my friends do not share my music interest for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so it just kind of ends up falling by the wayside a lot of the time. But you know, the, the time when I was in college and for a few years after that, definitely had a lot there. I went to see, quite a few Coheed and Cambria shows.
Oh, nice.
Went to a Pennywise concert. Uh, went to, I think, one or two Sonata Arctica shows. Back when I was still into that band. So yeah, there's quite a few things and a lot of good bands that I picked up just from like the openers of those shows too. Like I had never heard of Russian Circles, but they opened for Coheed and Cambria once, and they kicked
Mm,
ass.
interesting. Cool. What are some cool concert memories from that?
Uh, uh, I'm just gonna go with the very first one that came to mind when you asked that.
Sure.
There was a time, there was a time that I was at a Coheed show.
Hmm.
Actually, the same one where Russian Circles opened for them. In fact,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, at the time, I had my hair grown out, like
Hmm.
probably a good halfway down my back. And I distinctly remember once Coheed came on, like the whole crowd just started gyrating, moving back and forth, left to right. And it's like at any given moment, you could be standing in the middle of the crowd, like center stage, and then like a few seconds later, you're over by the wall, just the whole crowd moving. And I remember very distinctly, there was a time during them playing In Keeping Secrets that I wound up getting my hair caught in between
Oh no.
some people that were in the row behind me. Yeah, and just like I remember very distinctly everyone just like immediately recognized that that's what was happening, and they like got me unstuck, made sure I was okay, and everything was cool, and then we just immediately went back to going wall to wall.
Hell yeah. Oh my gosh. Hey, Fotzilla, I hope you're doing well. And mind if you recommend some albums for you and Emery. I mean, go ahead. Don't get too spam happy in the chat, but I do appreciate you sharing your recommended. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, Coheed are a fascinating band. I mean, the fact that like most of their albums are like concept albums tied into like a
Yeah.
shared universe, like, and that like it isn't like it doesn't the front man also draw like the comics for that too, or like
Yeah, I don't remember if he draws them, but I know that he writes the comics. So like, there's
yeah,
always
yeah,
like an intertwined like comic slash book slash music sort of narrative going on
yeah,
through all of it.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, it kind of feels weird at this point for me to jump into like Coheed in medias res, as it were. Not being fully familiar with the story, but I have played quite a few of their tracks on Yarg, and they've got a good sound to them. I can't lie.
Yeah, definitely. As far as like, continuity and stuff goes, frankly, the songs are weird and vague enough that like I don't think that lacking context from earlier albums is going to be that big of a deal for the most part.
Mm.
There was an interesting thing that happened with their latest album. My roommate actually got into the band a few years ago too, when they released their only non-concept album.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, and when they started on the new set of albums, the Vaxis albums, he was thinking like, okay, here's a great place for me to pick up. It's not stuff that, is directly related to all the albums that came before. And, we could just have our own, story and continuity for me to care about, and it'll be great. And then Coheed's last album released, and it had like all of a sudden a whole bunch of stuff that referred back to some of the earlier things,
Yeah.
and you kind of need to know that to understand it. And he was like, well, shit.
I just think it's funny how they did all of that, and then like a few years ago, didn't they do like fucking Jesse's Girl too, where like they wrote it out where like
Oh yeah.
the girl was just like a fucking
Oh my God, I
psychopath
forgot
or
about
something,
that.
like crazy. I'd say King's X is first. I've been interested in maybe exploring King's X before. They got a really interesting lineup to them. Are you familiar with King's X at all, Emery?
I'm positive that I've listened to them before, but I remember nothing about it.
As far as I understand, they're like in one of those early like prog metal bands, like back from the 80s, early 90s. So definitely be curious
unfortunately,
to check them out at some point.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're just outside my realm of stuff that I'm familiar with.
Yeah. No, that's totally understandable. Out of the Silent Planet. Oh yeah, Gretchen. I've heard a lot of people praise Gretchen Goes to Nebraska. It's a very very wild title for like a prog album, but like
It makes you wonder.
Yeah, exactly. So getting a bit more into the streaming side of your life, as a streamer, how do you try and incorporate your musical side into streams? I think we already discussed, you've got, karaoke every now and then. You take karaoke redeems and stuff. And is there anything else you do?
So yeah, aside from irregular guitar and karaoke streams, um for one thing, not even just in terms of like regular stream content, but just stuff that I have on the channel, I always start and end with music that I listen to, so that way it kind of like sets the tone for stuff that I enjoy. But other than that, I do stream a few rhythm games as well. You mentioned Yarg before, and even though I don't play that specifically, I have done quite a bit of Clone Hero, which is right up my alley.
Yeah.
Played Muse Dash quite a bit. So yeah, music is just always there in some form or another. If there's a stream where like either gameplay is repetitive in some manner, like I used to stream Rocket League, and there's you can have music playing in game on that, but it's licensed. But yeah, in games like that, or during like chatting streams or something like that, I'll have like some music going on in the background as well. So there's just always some sort of sound going on.
Right.
Playing Hollow Knight recently has been a little weird for me, because there are areas of that game where there's just nothing going on music-wise, and my ears freak out about it. My ears need something. Play me the theme of the place.
It's just as effective as building attention as the music is, honestly.
Yeah. It is.
But I guess related to you playing Clone Hero and stuff. I take it you were there, back in the day for the whole 5-fret rhythm game boom, as it were. When all that shit got so oversaturated real fast. Oh god.
Yep. Guitar Hero 2 was introduced to me by a friend, and that's actually what kickstarted me getting into metal as a genre.
Right.
I remember playing a lot of like the heavier songs on those games were usually the harder ones.
Yeah.
So I ended up spending a lot of time with those and got used to how the sound is, and just eventually from there got into metalcore as a genre, and just expanded from there.
Yeah, they had a lot of really cool, like, it's mid 2000s metalcore artists in those games, like back in the day. And like, I
Yeah.
remember, like, what was it? All That Remains, like, was super
Yep.
big on, like, those early Guitar Hero games, but especially on Rock Band. Like, I remember they threw in a few tracks to the whole, Rock Band Network thing when that was going on.
Yeah, even before they established Rock Band Network, they had just a whole song pack of all the
Right.
remaining songs. But I'm
Yeah.
also, I was remember Kill Switch Engage being on Guitar Hero 3.
Oh, yeah. Uh, Also, weird one I recommend is Exorcist Metal PlayStation.
Exorcist.
Interesting. That's, uh, I mean, Exorcist is about as stock a name as you could expect for a metal band, but I definitely am curious. um, well, what's your favorite of the older rhythm games?
Uh, it has to be Guitar Hero 2 or 3. Either
Okay.
one of those. That was the stuff that I was raised on. I played way too much of all of it. I I I got
Yeah.
too far into it. I remember seeing like there were some televised like competitions at the time of people playing Guitar Hero against each other, but they were
Yeah.
like rated by a panel of judges. So like there
Mm.
was not just how well you played the song, but also like your showmanship that got judged.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And like I remember watching those and being like, I want to do that, and so I learned to play Guitar Hero even better.
Yeah.
And fortunately for me, that was a time when people cared about you being good at Guitar Hero, so it wasn't just a useless skill. People would
Right.
actually be impressed back then. But yeah, spent a lot of time on Guitar Hero 2 and 3, to the
Yeah.
point that in the days of Guitar Hero 3, I remember distinctly being like near the top of the leaderboards for one of the game modes.
Mm. See, for me, I think it was kind of similar for me, except with Rock Band 2. See, Rock Band 2 is what, I mean, it was both, one of my most nostalgic games as a kid, arguably, but also, like, I don't know, I just think it's, like, the rhythm games sort of peaked there in terms of, like, set list variety,
Yeah.
career options. Like, I thought the Rock Band 3 career was honestly a little bit weaker than Rock Band 2's. That I think they perfected it
Mhm.
there. Um,
Yeah.
but just like also the multiplayer for that game, the online multiplayer, the fact that you could form bands and like compete with those bands to be at the top of the leaderboards for songs, like I remember being
Yeah.
in like a Rock Band 2 band with a bunch of other people on like fucking PSN back in the day, and it was a blast. Like that, I it felt like I was in a band, even though I didn't know shit about playing an instrument at that point.
I mean, it's close enough. Like, it definitely replicated the feeling, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, those Rock Band games were so fucking good. I think that's might have been why I gravitated towards Yarg more than Clone Hero. But I hear good things
Mhm.
about Clone Hero.
Yeah, I would probably play Yarg too if I honestly, if I just take the time to look at it and set it up and stuff like that. I feel like
Yeah.
though the main thing for me is if I had like an electronic drum set to hook up to it,
Oh
that
yeah.
that would be like the probably the best way of playing drums on those
Absolutely.
songs.
See, my issue is that I don't quite know how to make that connection between my drums and the art. 'Cause, like, I think I tried it once,
Mm,
like when I had a larger room and I could fit my kit in, room with my computer. But like when I
mhm.
tried putting in, like it registered to an extent, but it was very awkward, trying to play what was on the screen and like trying to figure out what, correlated with what and all that.
Right, especially since there's only like a few possible, drum hits
Yeah.
that it'll even accept.
And I'm pretty sure that, like, I'm pretty sure I got some drops there because I don't know, like, maybe, because I've had my electronic kit at this point now for just about, like, 8 years, I want to say. Like, I feel like some of those pads are in need of replacement, but I've just been dragging my feet on that. uh, so, how is it like whenever you do your karaoke streams? How is it taking requests, and would you prefer to perform your own polished sets instead, or is it fun to have a little variety like that?
I definitely tend more towards wanting to, define the set list strictly and not really allow people to request their own stuff. Just because,
Right.
the way that I, think about it, it's good to, come up with a set list beforehand and practice that during the week, and then be ready when it's stream day,
Right.
right? Um, but there is definitely something to be said for, letting people request stuff. Like, one, if it's songs that are on, I use a streamer song list to keep track of
Right.
what stuff all I have possible.
Yeah. What
And
you can and can't play.
if it's on the list, I should be able to do it. Is the
Right.
thinking. Um, but yeah, I think just the way that I think about things is much more towards like the rigid set list idea. And in addition to that, some of the most of the karaoke streams I do actually are, I like to do full album sing
Oh,
throughs.
nice.
Uh, yeah, so I'm just basically like showcasing a particular work that I like from start to finich. And so like
Yeah.
when I do that, there's not really a whole lot of room for taking requests. I could, of course, but I feel like it's the vibe is a specific way because it's a specific album, and so I just don't usually take requests during that. Maybe I should.
No, I definitely feel that. God knows, I haven't tried any karaoke, but I would definitely prefer to have some sort of structure as opposed to like there's something to be said for like being able to be spontaneous enough to do things on the fly like that. It's definitely a
Right.
good skill to pick up if you're like a working musician, but I don't know if I like maybe I could do it as a singer, but I don't know. It depends really on what people are requesting. um,
Right. I feel like karaoke streams aside, in terms of guitar streams that I do, it definitely works out a lot better for me to have rigid set lists just because, I
yeah,
those guitar is harder to practice than singing.
yeah, no, for sure.
uh you need to like really sit down, have all the equipment ready to go, and tune up and all that. So it's like when you're practicing for a guitar set list, like you've got to really lock into it. And so having a more rigid set list to play
Right.
is a lot easier, because it's like, here's the 15-ish songs that I'm going to play in the time that I have, and I'm going to focus on making sure that I have each one down before we go live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Be a lot of prep work going into that. So I have to ask about the Sonic speed running stuff. How long have you been doing that? Sonic Adventure 2 specifically, right?
Yeah, only Sonic Adventure 2, only the Hero Story mode, and I've been at it for a couple years, but it's not something that I do terribly frequently. I have like a fairly long list of games that I play on stream, and that's just one of them.
Yeah,
So they all end up getting like roughly even time, and so I'm sharing that with like a dozen other things.
that's
Um,
fair.
so like, even though I've been at it for a couple years, I'm still not actually like all that great of a Sonic speedrunner. Definitely faster than I was when I, started and was like, okay, I'm gonna try and just set a baseline time for me to beat. And I've improved on that quite a bit, but there's still so much further to go. And I
Oh, I'm sure.
really,
Game
in
as
some ways,
established
I
as
wish that
that.
I could put more time into it. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, in some ways,
I mean,
I wish that I could put more time into it, just because, like, if I really wanted to, I could probably just, stop other stuff and dedicate myself to speed running and, really nailing all the tricks that you need to do for it. But the variety side of me just needs to come out and do all these other things too. So it just doesn't really happen.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a struggle to be a content a streamer and a speedrunner at the same time. I watch a lot of Blue SR, you know, Hollow Knight Silk Song speedrunner, and he constantly, you know, comments on that. He says that his content is speed slop because, you know, even though he does, you know, very impressive tricks from time to time, and, you know, usually likes to, you know, he cuts down a lot of time. It's very rare to see him, you know, actually get the record on stream. I mean, same for most other speedrunners, but like you see him fuck up frequently because, you know, he's distracted with engaging chat and stuff. So like,
Yeah.
it's a
And
trade-off
even in
between
addition to
like
that,
it's a trade-off between being like an entertaining streamer versus like being a great speedrunner, I feel like.
yeah, and like in addition to that, there's this thing that I don't know if like people who don't speedrun are really aware of, like the cognitive effect of having your splits on screen visible to you and your chat. It's like I can see my best times for each segment of the game, for each level of Sonic Adventure 2 in my case.
Right.
And like I always want to do that well, but that's not how it works. That a good time comes from like all this repetition and practice, and you're never going to have like any individual run that is just everything going the best it ever has, and this is like your hands down best time in the world. That's not how it works.
Especially not in a game with as many variables as Sonic fucking Adventure 2.
Oh yeah.
But do you have a favorite video game OST? Feel free to multiple choice this one as well if it's hard to answer.
Yeah, really glad you said that, because there are a lot of there's a lot of game soundtracks that have had a profound effect on me over time.
Right.
I'd say probably the biggest one would be the Halo 2 soundtrack. Played a lot of Halo back in the day, and Halo 2 in particular, having all that rock influence as a part of it, just really set it apart from other game soundtracks in my mind. You know, not just the songs by Incubus and Breaking Benjamin, and on the soundtrack itself, Hoobastank of all things, but even just like the way that Mario O'Donnell approaches rhythm and song structure and stuff like that had a very much like rock bent to it, and it really showed and set it apart. Since then, other things, other stuff that had influence on me musically, I really liked the Dynasty Warriors soundtracks.
Okay.
They're just like wall of guitar kind of sound.
Not too familiar with the music in those games, unfortunately.
Oh man, I could recommend some tracks. But aside from that, I played. There was Blaze Blue, fighting game. That one had like a metal with some orchestral bits kind of soundtrack that actually got me to try the game itself. I got into that game from the music.
Fighting games live and die off their soundtracks. If you're not hype, what's the point in playing?
Yeah. Right, like there's a reason why Let Me Take You for a Ride was just resounding through the arcade when I was a kid. It's because MVC2 had a good soundtrack. Let's see, otherwise Sonic games had a lot of influence on me musically as well. Sonic Adventure 2 soundtrack is phenomenal in so many ways, all these different genres, but still somehow with like this unifying sound because it's all Jun Senoue writing it. It's just really freaking good. It's probably no surprise that Green Forest was one of my favorite songs on the soundtrack. Let's see, what else have I listened to from games? In a tangential sense, I'm gonna say Metroid Metal counts.
Oh yeah, wow. the Metroid soundtracks in general are just, stellar and as hell. I mean, I'm not too familiar with
Yeah, they
Metroid
are.
Metal itself, but like I can imagine, it translates incredibly well.
Yeah, it's real interesting to listen to them. It's really just like a few dudes who, did a project of,
Right.
turning Metroid music into metal. But because Metroid, the soundtrack outside of like boss fights is usually very like atmospheric,
Yeah.
uh it created this weird effect where when I play the Metroid games now, I know the songs mostly because of remembering what Metroid Metal arranged them as, and I end up humming
Yeah.
the melodies just based on that memory alone. It's really funny how that works out.
Yeah, no, I it's incredible just how well, like, especially like Super Metroid's soundtrack has aged. Like, those
Mhm.
composers back then for like the SNES, like, not just for like Super Metroid, but like games like Donkey Kong 2, where like you had the programmers literally going in to like modify like the signals or the synth signals or whatever
Oh
to
yeah.
get the sounds they wanted. Like, I mean, the 16th gen, sound hardware wasn't perfect, but what you could get out of it was like some of the most
Oh yeah.
incredible game music ever created, for my money.
Yeah, especially any composers that like really looked into how to use the limited audio channels in unorthodox ways. Like, have you
Yeah,
ever played the Game Boy Pokemon trading card game?
I I think so. It's been like fucking decades, but yeah, I think I did play that when I was younger.
Yeah, yeah. So the music in that game is just phenomenal.
Mm.
And I watched I think it was an 8-bit music theory video that talked about just how that soundtrack was produced. And it's
Oh
like,
wow.
dude had a lot of jazz influence and ended up using the audio channels in such a way that like, you know, some melodies were like split between two different channels just for the sake of being able to like have one channel do the bass line but then also move up to higher notes whenever needed so that it can fill in parts of the melody when you can't have like complex chords due to the limited number of audio channels. There's all this stuff that goes into it, and the end result is just absolutely some of the best video game music that's ever been produced, even if it was only like a small handful of tracks, because that's all they could do at the time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it, I mean, not that CD audio quality composers have it any easier. I mean, you're basically making an entire
Mhm.
damn song now to put on the like a video game, but like,
Right, yeah.
but I just like it's so interesting, like the specialized skill set you had to have back then in order to
Mhm.
compose bangers for those games.
Yeah, because like you had to be not just, a musician, but also like an audio engineer and a
Yeah, a
hardware
programmer.
engineer. And
Yeah.
it's, yeah, it's nuts.
Um. So So now, what inspired you to become a VTuber?
So, I'd always had a bit of an interest in the idea of streaming video games.
Right.
Like, even though, like, weirdly, I never really watched streamers a whole lot before discovering VTubers.
Hmm.
But I always kind of wanted to give it a try of just like, here's this game that I'm good at. I'm gonna play it and see if people like it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then like the decision to become a VTuber more specifically is kind of just down to the time and place. I started VTubing back in 2020,
Hmm.
and actually toward the start of that year is when one of my online friends had sent me a video of a whole live stream that had
Oh yeah.
happened. And like at the time, I was already aware of like Hughes and I,
Hmm.
and curious about how exactly that came to be and how you could do something like that. But the, technology was at a point where it wasn't really terribly accessible at the time. But then like once I
Right.
found Hololive, it, led me into discovering that like, indie VTubing is a thing, and VTube
Mm-hmm.
Studio and live 2D models and all that. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. I can actually, maybe do this. And what, finally got me to give it a go was discovering from Hololive Okayu Nekomata.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, so she had at the time like an attitude on stream that was very calm.
Mm-hmm.
And that stood out to me because like I was never really, the kind of person that could, produce the over the top reactions that, popular streamers at the time, would do whenever
Right,
like
yeah.
anything happens in a game. Um, and so seeing someone who, is able to just play a game with, their own vibe and their own chill approach to it, just kind of, that was a thing that made me be like, oh, I, actually can do this. I might as well give it a shot, see how it goes. And now here I am. It's been like 5.5 years and I'm still going.
Right on. Yeah, no, Hololive was also my end. I think it probably was like Courtney and like Coco that kicked me down the rabbit hole. But definitely
Hmm.
that period when like lockdown first began in 2020, like gave me the VTuber
Yeah.
brain rot, and like the following summer I had a I bought a PC ready for right for streaming and VTubing and all that stuff. So I
Nice.
relate to you there for sure. What do you hope to do as a musician in the VTuber community? Like, as loaded as a term as this might be, what do you hope is your legacy?
Um, I think the dream, uh, as far as I've thought, is to eventually, have an output where people can look at it and go like, here's some good modern punk rock music, and
Mm.
it's made by this dude and
Hmm.
whatever, because it's a genre that doesn't really get a whole lot of attention in the VTuber scene.
Yeah, yeah.
Anime songs are a much bigger umbrella of things that get attention, and like Vocaloid covers and stuff like that.
Right.
And I kind of just want to poke the boundaries of people a little bit, and get them to check out something that might be a little bit outside of what they normally consider to be doable by VTubers.
Absolutely. You know, while I can appreciate the whole J-pop idol side of things in the VTubing sphere well enough. You
Mhm.
know, those girls and guys, who do that sort of shit are all super talented folk, and I I could never
Oh
do what
yeah.
they do. But at the same time, I do very much love. I love that we're seeing more and more VTuber indie musicians pop up through the years that find their musical inspiration from outside of Japan, and bring metal influences, bring punk influences, rock
Hmm.
influences to the floor. Like, one of the first friends I made in this space was Noriboshi Ariel. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her or her output, but she streams on YouTube regularly, does like RuneScape music production streams, collab streams with other VTubers, and she is super
Hmm.
hardworking in trying to combine like her love for like heavy metal, symphonic metal, and that sort of stuff with your traditional VTuber idol activities. And that sort of fusion is something that I'd love to see a lot more. If God forbid, VTubing continues to go down the whole like idol route for however long, at least we can have some more musical variety in there, right?
Yeah, I feel like there's, as VTubing has kind of expanded and grown over the years, the influx of indies with different ideas and influences from just what is common at the top has been very healthy for the scene as a whole. And I'm definitely, not gonna diss, the big names or whatever for the things that they do,
Right.
because like as you said, it's incredibly impressive to be able to like write or perform music and like then go on stage and sing and dance and have that all go off without a hitch with no
Yeah.
like voice breaks or technical issues or whatever. It's just insane how much can be done now.
Mm-hmm.
But like as with anything, having the influx of new people with ideas and influences from outside of that realm is just always going to be good for keeping the scene fresh and keeping it afloat even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so, do you have any dream goals or collabs?
Oh,
I mean, Okayu's
that's a pretty
probably an
big question.
obvious one, right? But like,
What was that?
Okayu's probably an obvious one, right?
That that would be pretty great. There are a lot of people that I look up to in VTubing, and especially like I am, as much as I try to be the punk, like I do ultimately still, watch a lot of stuff from Hololive
Oh
and
yeah,
all
yeah.
that, and I, become influenced by that, and I want to do the things that they are doing, regardless of whether it's in a big professional capacity or not, or if
Mm-hmm.
it's just like I find people around the indie area that are into the same things as I am and have similar ideas, and we can all just kind of work together on stuff. I think that the the lofty like head in the clouds kind of ideas, I would love to be able to like perform music on a song for like a large streamer.
Okay.
I would love to one day write a song for someone, and if I can get to that point, I know that in order to even get to that point, I've really got to like buckle down on producing and releasing stuff as a
Yeah.
VTuber, because
Totally.
otherwise it's just not going to happen. But
Mm.
that's kind of the ideal of where I'd like to end up if I can get things to go that way.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. It's God knows it's a long way to the top if you want to collab with your Oshis.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think we're just about the end of the questions I had prepared. One final thing that I usually like to leave my guests off with is, given the current chaotic state of the world, where it seems like things are getting increasingly bleak, hopeless by the month or by the week, by the day, however cynically you view it. What sort of music do you turn to in tough times? Like when you're feeling sad, anxious, depressed, etc. Any negative emotions? What music do you use to cope?
um I'd say a lot of time it's just going to be stuff that I'm familiar with and been listening to for years. Like I'll
Yeah,
always, be willing to go back to like old Breaking Benjamin albums and just,
yeah,
listen to them in whatever stupor I am in and just, remember how to enjoy things.
yeah.
Aside from that, I've also been discovering a lot of like more recent emo music and like the post pop punk merger
Oh yeah.
era where there's like a lot of stuff where it's like modern pop punk that's very open about like emotions and hardship and stuff like that, and sometimes it's just really nice to hear a song in which someone expresses going through the same sort of like doubts and confusion that you are, and
Yeah.
it's kind of cathartic in a way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm not an active emo fan by any means, but I absolutely understand the appeal of that, of like post-hardcore, of the that whole sort of
Hmm.
scene melding all those genres together in like a stew, and like uh, I'm actually I'm excuse me
Excuse me. That
um
was me.
no, it's fine. I'm okay. um there's this one friend I have, you know, back in the Philadelphia area who's in a post-hardcore band, Johnny
Hmm.
Football Hero. It's a super cool band, like very like if you're into that sort of post-hardcore, I definitely recommend checking them out. But it's, you know, it's great being able to use that music as a sort of release valve for everything going on in your life. I mean, it's obviously it's not just, you know, the composer. It's, you know, everybody else like glomming on to them and relating to them in their own way. Like it's,
Hmm.
you know, I think a lot about the fact that, you know, so many people see bands of that genre and go like, they saved my life, right? Like
Hmm.
you don't see that shit for like any of the like the teenage heartthrobs in the glam metal scene, for instance. Like even though you had like even though those bands have like very like female heavy, you know, audiences, it was nothing compared to like how girls were reacting to like My Chemical Romance or like Fallout Boy
Right.
or any of those guys say.
Yeah, I feel like, at a certain point in I feel like I'm saying this condescendingly, but I don't mean it that way. Once you're at
Right.
a certain point of emotional maturity, music becomes like a very personal kind of thing where once you can start connecting to the themes and vibes of a song, like it starts to grab you that much more.
Yeah.
And you kind of start to feel like you understand, what the lyricist is saying. And even sometimes, like, you can end up interpreting the lyrics in ways that they were not meant, but are still very strong for you and help you, you know, think about the way that you perceive things
Absolutely.
and, help you in that way.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Um well, I think that's just about the end of what I had prepared here. Do you have any last minute things you want to bring up or things you want to ask?
No, I didn't have anything in particular. So thank you very much for having me on today. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, of course. Great to have you. Where can people best find you, Emery?
People can find me. My my username is slightly different on various sites just due to character limits for usernames and such. But
Sure.
I am on Twitter. I'm on Tumblr. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Twitch. For all of those, my username is either Emery Matsushita or Emery Matsushita VT. Depends on the site. Just character limits, as I said.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I linked your Twitch in the chat, and anybody who's coming from me, definitely go check Emery out. He's a cool personality, streams a cool variety of games and such. And if you're coming from Emery's audience to here, please consider giving me a subscribe, maybe liking the
Do it.
stream, leaving a comment down below or so. You know, all that supports me, helps the channel to grow, and also if you like lengthy music history deep dives, I make those as well, so you get that as an added little bonus with your subscription. um but all that being said, yeah, I think that is just about the end of our stream today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm going to try and redirect us to somewhere neat before I go and make some dinner for myself. Let's see here.
Yeah, thank you once
Stream.
again for having me on, and thank you to all your viewers for hanging around. It was a good
Yeah.
time.
You know what? We are going to raid into Mint because she is streaming right now. Mint Fantome. So if you guys want to join me in so doing, you can leave the classic cat raid message in chat, or if you just want to go get your own if you just want to go get your own dinner or do your own thing to wind down for the night, that is all well and good too. But in either case, thank you guys so much for tuning into today's streams. I not streams. I don't know why I said streams pearl, but thank you for tuning into the stream today, y'all. I've been your host, Rezi Orenji, and I will see y'all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.